Rise! Attention! Mion made an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, neither Rena nor Mion spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satoko nor Rika-chan looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The month since I transferred in had been almost too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rung, sounding the end of the monotonous school day, which I felt so tense yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join into the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today, and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath in the recesses of my heart, achingly I knew this would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would end as I wished it to end, or if it would end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless, in my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers. Or could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere, mixed in with those shrieks, Tomitake-san and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When do I realize it? I wonder if I'll be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw a Higurashi on its back, spasming weakly. There was still much of the summer left. This one was already chirping out its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they'd huddled together, fearing that the person who'd brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In its place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all of my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long. But in this moment, when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly among the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No. Since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I had hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person tailing me. Was it Rena, just like yesterday? If it was Rena, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Rena, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on my bat. I could tell that the fear that I had beaten back once was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Rena. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Rena that I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless. but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yeah, looked like she was grinning slightly. And in her right hand was an axe. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. Baseball, practicing my swing, there were tons of excuses for me to be carrying a bat. But for that axe? There was no excuse for that. An axe, just like that.
Keiichi-kun, are you playing hide and seek? I wonder?
My heart was pounding, hard enough that I had trouble breathing. What little composure I had been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good, not good, not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here.
Were you trying to scare me, I wonder?
I decided that it would be better to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than to allow Rena to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readying myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree.
I found you, Keiichi-kun.
Rena was pleased that she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me that she was displeased by the fact that I had been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of vicious, hot and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs of my body. Not good, not good. I'll be devoured by Rena at this rate. Strike back. Don't lose. What is this? I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Rena didn't flinch one bit.
Just the same as Keiichi-kun. I'm heading home.
Then what about that axe?
Then what about that bat you're holding?
I'm practicing my swing.
Then I'm treasure hunting.
Rena gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Treasure hunting?
At the treasure mountain near the dam site, I found a new cute thing, so I needed to dig it out.
How could I believe that?
You wouldn't believe it, would you?
Rena's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Rena's transformation many times before, but the one today was completely different. Like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was just so obvious.
Wait, Keiichi-kun.
Rena didn't stop walking, even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Rena got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn back towards her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Rena and was trying to escape. Don't follow me!
I can't do that. My house is this way, after all.
When I met with Rena on the road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Rena didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? If the way home for Rena and me was the same, that's fine. I just changed my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew a little about. But Rena saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Then just go home down the street you normally do. Why would you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head, eventually spilled out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror.
Because I want to talk to Keiichi-kun. Keiichi-kun wants to talk to Rena too, doesn't he?
I don't want to talk about anything with you.
That's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there?
Not at all. I have nothing to talk to you about.
That's a lie, isn't it?
It's not a lie! Lies! Then a scream echoed, startling some of the nearby birds in the flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace.
Let's talk, Keiichi-kun. Talk.
Why was I running down this unfamiliar, deserted street?
Doesn't Keiichi-kun have something he's worried about?
Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. Lies! Even though I was running, even though Rena was walking, why wasn't I getting any farther away?
I know. I really do know. You're scared, aren't you, Keiichi-kun?
I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Lies! My breathing grew heavy and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Then I wasn't even breaking a sweat.
I'll listen. This time I'll listen.
I had no idea what she was talking about or what exactly she wanted to do.
This time I'll listen. It'll be different from the time with Satoshi-kun.
When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, then it was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop.
Satoshi-kun was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time. But I didn't listen. I was so sad.
Where did the street connect to? All these twists and turns, ups and downs. It was hard to believe that this was even remotely in the direction toward my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window.
I really regretted it when Satoshi-kun transferred out. I thought that if I had listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that.
The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting farther away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was disturbingly calm.
So you see, I vowed. I thought that if there was someone struggling like Satoshi-kun did, I'd save them. I don't want to see anyone transfer out again.
Damn it! What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't have to end up the same as Satoshi.
Come on, Keiichi-kun. Talk to me. I'll be able to understand you, Keiichi-kun. I'm your ally.
I started wheezing out of breath. My lungs were so hot that they felt like they were going to explode, and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced riding instead of my swing. I couldn't afford to scoff at that stupid thought.
If Keiichi-kun doesn't have anything to worry about, he'll go back to normal. Everyone will be back to being friends and we can enjoy club activities again. Next time we'll team up and beat Mi-chan.
Yeah, how much fun would that be? Nana couldn't even imagine how I had wished I could turn back the clock on these past few days.
You could be nice to me again, too. I want to go searching for treasure again. This time, I'll prepare a nice lunch. Actually, you could just go right now. Let's go up to the dance site together. I'll show you the cute thing I just found. I'm sure you'll like it, too.
My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, Lena's footsteps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Rena. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just then, if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. Not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled underneath me and I crumpled towards the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Elena was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Lena was so cool and composed that she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all. Rather, couldn't even sense if her heart was beating.
Are you afraid of something, I wonder? It's not like you to tremble, Keiichi-kun.
Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, a mask of affection. As she admonished me for trembling, then his hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as if I was staring at the godliness of the thousand-armed Buddha. Then as both of her hands met her head, the axe that she held came into focus. I stared up at her in disbelief. It was all I could do. Tell me, what happened to Satoshi? Then it stayed like that, with the axe raised above her head, solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never to see again. That cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions.
I told you, Satoshi-kun transferred out.
Enough of that transfer crap! It means demon away, doesn't it? Doesn't it? You can tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you? Mion? Or someone in the village? Answer me! I became frantic the more I screamed, but then I did nothing to maintain the smile frozen on her face.
I had no idea what Keiichi-kun is talking about.
And I'll say it in a way so you do. Who is the perpetrator of this chain of mysterious deaths?
You seem to be confused, Keiichi-kun.
What?
There is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oyashiro-sama's will.
Isn't Oyashiro-sama's curse just superstition? You believe in that too?
It's not about believing or not. Oyashiro-sama exists. Period.
Nena's gaze grew even more galled. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. There's no way that something like Oyashiro-sama could exist.
You don't believe in Oyashiro-sama?
There's no way I could believe it. There's no way it could exist.
It exists. Oyashiro-sama exists. Keiichi-kun should have felt it personally.
I never felt something like that.
Keiichi-kun, haven't you felt someone apologizing to you before? Constantly on top of that?
All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Lena's voice resounded loudly and terribly.
You see, until you forgive them, they'll always be with you. At school, at home, at your bedside.
I couldn't understand what Lena was saying.
It came to me too. Oyashiro-sama did. That's why I transferred and came back to Hinamizawa.
I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Lena saying?
Hasn't Oyashiro-sama come to you as well, Keiichi-kun? I'm probably the only one who you can confide in. I won't let you transfer out, okay?
Lena's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Lena saying Oyashiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I heard about that when I asked about Lena. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. You still interested? Oishi-san began speaking. Neither the victims nor the school filed a complaint, so there's no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter, so all of these details are just what I heard from those involved. Meaning, it's not that credible. You said there were victims. Didn't Rena just break all the windows? No, Rena Ryugu had attacked 3 boys, using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises, but the other had been injured so badly that one of his eyes was permanently damaged. Wouldn't that be considered assault? Shouldn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report to the police, so they were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally, there would be a criminal investigation. But why didn't they press charges? I tried asking the 3 male victims for their side of the story, but they were all reluctant. It's hard to say, but they were all afraid. I would be too if someone openly beat the shit out of me. Maybe. Even after she transferred schools. Oishi-san, could you summarize it starting from the beginning? Rena hit people while she broke the windows? Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. On an undisclosed date, Rena Ryugu was conversing with 3 male students, close friends of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those 3? I can't reveal their names, but they were close to Rena Ryugu, and it seems they were a group of friends. She was the lone girl in their group. So it wasn't that strange that the 4 of them were together. So what happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat that was in the pool storage shed and beat the 3 of them down one after the other. What? There were no witnesses. This was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Rena and 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather they usually met up there. It appears it became a heated discussion. At that time, Rena underwent a change. The change was so abrupt that the 3 of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends one after the other. Leaving her friends covered in blood with the gashes on their head, she made her way towards the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on the scene and subdued her. What was this change that Rena underwent? What matches up in the statements from the 3 students was a sudden change. The point that there was a transformation. I also could recall Rena's transformation. I'd seen that change many times before. It was so different from the usual Rena that I couldn't help but believe it was someone else who looked like Rena. The transformation they're talking about, had it happened before? And no, there was nothing like that. As far as I could find out, in her medical history and past, there was nothing like that. Does that happen often? Or where people suddenly change like Rena did? Of course it does. There are plenty of psychological phenomena that could cause something like that. Then, you're saying there was a dormant element in Rena that caused that transformation? I cannot say that for certain, but according to the statements of her friends, it's hard to believe she had such a side to her. Kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat? Who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believed I was mistaken for thinking that was Rena, even now. Then, what happened after that? There was a hospital right across from the school, so the 3 of them were carried in and treated quickly. What about Rena? What about the police? Why wasn't there a criminal investigation? You see, the police can't get involved unless they're called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage, why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason they couldn't file charges, even if they wanted to. We're talking about you after all. Of course you looked into it, didn't you? Well, yeah. But I told you at the beginning, didn't I? That the victims were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch on the matter, or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in Oyashiro-sama's curse. Did the teacher at the school tell you anything? School is hallowed ground. You could say they tend to keep scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly, you see. Then, there was no comment from the school. No. They denied the incident even happened. It's just, 3 male students were carried in for blunt force trauma that day. That's all that was in the hospital records. The victims didn't speak, the school denied it. Then you don't know anything at all. Yeah, I know nothing other than the incident itself had taken place. The victims also wish this incident to be kept from the public, so if you and I both forget about it, Maibara-san, then this incident will probably just fade away. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by rolling waves, sinking quietly into the void, as if it never existed to begin with. After that, she was suspended by the school, and during that time, she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from that doctor? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics. Or at least very tight-lipped. Nothing even after you showed them your badge. I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself was no legally binding authority after all. Then how do you know that Rena confessed that it was Oyashiro-sama who did it? There was a nurse I asked in that department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. Then what did she say? Turns out that the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all that she remembered was what she overheard from inside the room. The nurse said that, at the time, Rena Ryugu was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at a church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between just the doctor and Rena for a while. The part with Oyashiro-sama, when did that pop up? Partway through. She screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in.
It was Oyashiro-sama!
Then it suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I have no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor, calmly and collectedly, asked Rena to have a seat. What is this Oyashiro-sama you speak of? Gently, ever so gently, the fundamentals of counseling were believing what you were told.
Whoever abandoned Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Oyashiro-sama. And they finally got into me.
That's the town you lived in before you moved here, isn't that right, Ryuko-san?
I don't want to move. I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and dad's circumstances, we had to. But Oyashiro-sama wouldn't allow it.
Ryuko-san must have lots of friends in Hinamizawa. Even now, you must be missing them dearly, don't you think?
I want to go back to Hinamizawa. No, it's not that I want to go back. I have to go back. I should have gone back much sooner, but now it's too late. Oyashiro-sama has come.
Oyashiro-sama is the name of the god of Hinamizawa, isn't that right?
Everyone knows. It's Hinamizawa's guardian deity. And if you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa by leaving, you'll incur his wrath.
You had moved quite a while ago, didn't you? Then, it was just now that this god has arrived, is that what you're saying?
You might not believe me, but Oyashiro-sama exists.
That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered. That it was Oyashiro-sama's doing, right? I do believe there is that kind of superstition in Hinamizawa. That if you leave the village, then you incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath. You should be familiar with this part, Maibara-san. I knew very well what those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the damn construction project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death. Then the following year, Satoko's parents, supporters, and leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I've heard of the curse incurred by leaving the village. This is my first time hearing that. I can understand outside threats being cursed by the village, but why also villagers who leave? Normally people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that the people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Curses weren't something to chase after people then leave, were they? Oishi-san pondered for a bit over on the other end of the receiver, then began speaking again. Well, I told you of long ago when Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, didn't I? I recalled hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as the village of ogres. The villagers at the foot of the mountains worshipped the ogres, so Onikakushi was hallowed ground that you could never enter. It came to be said that if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Those who set foot at Onikakushi, in other words Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I can understand that. I know that. But for leaving to also be no good, that's... Also, the ogres, you see, they were being strictly watched by Oyashiro-sama so they would not enter into our world. In other words, Oyashiro-sama probably restricted interaction between Onikakushi and the rest of the world. I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro-sama was. So basically, Oyashiro-sama is more like a warden than a protectorate deity, I guess? Trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world. I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I could understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So because Rena originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements for being cursed. So that means because Rena moved away against its wishes, she was cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Is that what that adds up to? In short, that seems to be what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards, they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. But then, why only Rena? Shouldn't Rena's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and have been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot more people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal at all. At most, there would be one person dying and one disappearing on the day of the Watanagashi. I don't like saying at most, though. Well, anyways, there's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up as to why her classmates, the victims who were beaten with the metal bat, wouldn't press charges. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed that terrible curse had befallen them, do you? Of course I didn't want to believe it. But more importantly, I just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Rena made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I'd recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Rena as well. She was affected by Oyashiro-sama's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon which she had used at the time of that horrendous act was, again, a metal bat. And finally, me. I'd encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding on to a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. Couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Rena? But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Rena was still here. Both of them had fallen victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Rena, Satoshi, and finally me. Could it be that I really was under Oyashiro-sama's curse right now? No. More importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Rena was fine. Fine. Rena had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that wasn't Rena residing within her. And here, right now, it was standing before me.